On my 27th birthday, the room smelled like money. The restaurant shimmered with soft golden light, laughter echoing off the marble walls. My parents sat at the center table, smiling, like royalty surrounded by friends and fake smiles. It was my 27th birthday, but it didn't feel like a celebration, just another performance. Then my grandfather leaned forward, his voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. "So, Emily," he said, raising his glass, "how are you enjoying your $3.6 million trust fund?" The room went silent. Even the waiter stopped mid-pour. I blinked at him, confused. What trust fund? For a heartbeat, no one moved. My mother's hand froze around her fork. My father's smile collapsed. My grandfather didn't look at them. He looked straight at me, waiting for an answer I didn't have. He repeated it slowly, like testing if I'd gone deaf. "The trust fund I set up for you when you were born. The one your parents were supposed to release when you turned 25. My heart dropped. I laughed awkwardly, searching my parents' faces for a hint that this was a joke. I don't know anything about that." My mother's laugh came out sharp, too bright. "Dad, you must be confused. There's no such fund." "Victoria," Grandpa said quietly, and the tone in his voice made the air change. She stopped instantly. He stood up, nodded to the waiter. "We need a private room." Minutes later, we were ushered away from the dining hall and down a long corridor lined with mirrors. My reflection followed me, nervous, pale, small. When the door shut behind us, it sounded final. Grandpa's assistant, Michelle, was already there with a tablet. Beside her stood a tall man in a gray suit, holding a folder. "This is Michael Anderson," Grandpa said. "My attorney." My father's jaw clenched. My mother's eyes darted toward the door. Grandpa gestured to the lawyer. "Go ahead." Michael opened the folder, his voice calm but cold. "Miss Hart, this is the trust account established under your name. The original deposit was $1 million. With interest and investments, it should now be worth about $3.6 million. My breath caught. "Should be?" He nodded. "As of this morning, the remaining balance is $200,000. The room tilted. $200,000. From $3.6 million? I turned to my parents. "Tell me that's wrong." Grandpa's eyes never left them. "Explain." My father cleared his throat, his voice shaky. "We used some of it just to keep things afloat. The market crashed, and $3.5 million vanished." Grandpa asked quietly. Mom jumped in, her words trembling but rehearsed. "We were managing it responsibly. Emily's not ready to handle that kind of money." "Not ready?" I snapped. "I've been living in a one-bedroom apartment with a leaking roof, working 60 hours a week just to pay rent. You told me we were broke." Mom's lip quivered. "Sweetheart, we did it for you." "For me?" My voice cracked. "You gave me a book about budgeting for Christmas while you were stealing from me." The silence that followed was unbearable. The air felt too thick to breathe. Grandpa raised his hand slightly. "Michelle," he said, read the withdrawals. She scrolled through the tablet. "Mortgage payoff, $450,000. Vehicle purchases, 2 Tesla Model S, totaling $280,000. Home renovation, $320,000. Investment in Victoria Hart Real Estate, $500,000, recorded as total loss. And purchase of property in Malibu, $1.8 million, registered under James and Victoria Hart." I felt my stomach twist. "You bought a beach house? With my money?" Dad swallowed hard. It was an investment. For the family. Grandpa's tone dropped, low and dangerous. "It was theft." The word hit harder than a slap. He stood, eyes fixed on my parents. "Keys." My mother's hand shook as she reached into her purse and pulled out a small ring of keys. Grandpa slid them across the table toward me. "They're yours," he said. 2 years late, Mom's voice broke. "Dad, please, don't do this. We're family." "Family doesn't steal from family," he said simply. He turned to me, his gaze softening just a little. "You'll hear from my lawyers in the morning." When they left, the silence finally felt clean. I sat there staring at the keys glinting in front of me. For the first time in my life, I realized something. Blood doesn't make family. Loyalty does. And that night, I promised myself one thing. They'd regret ever underestimating me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The city lights flickered through my apartment window, but all I could see was that table, my parents' faces, and the way they didn't even look sorry. My phone buzzed just after midnight. It was a message from my mother. We didn't mean to hurt you. Please, don't make things worse for us. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing one word back, poefing one word back. Too late. The next morning, my grandfather's lawyer called. He said the legal team was preparing charges for fraud and theft. I didn't say a word, just listened as he listed everything they'd taken, every dollar, every lie. By afternoon, the news had spread through the family. My aunt called crying, saying I should forgive them because they're still your parents. I hung up. Then came the voicemail, my dad's voice. Beknate. Emily, please, don't let your grandfather destroy us. We'll pay it back. We just need time. I almost laughed. Time. They'd had 27 years. 2 days later, I drove to their house, the same mansion they bought with my money. The moment I pulled into the driveway, the smell of fresh paint hit me. The place looked like a magazine cover. Mom opened the door before I even knocked. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged. Sweetheart, we can talk. Can't we? I walked past her. Where's Dad? He was in the kitchen, pretending to read emails. The second he saw me, he stood up too quickly. Emily, we didn't know how to tell you. You thought you'd never get caught, I said. Mom grabbed my arm. We only borrowed it. The plan was always to return it. With what? I asked coldly. The fake business you ran into the ground? Her lip trembled. You've changed. You sound just like your grandfather. Good, I said. He's the only one who's ever told me the truth. Dad slammed his hand on the counter. Do you think you'd have anything without us? We raised you. We gave you everything. No, I said quietly. You sold everything that was mine. The silence stretched. Then I noticed something on the counter, 2 open passports and a stack of cash. My chest tightened. Are you leaving? Mom's face went pale. It's just a trip. To Costa Rica? I finished. That's not a trip. That's running away. Neither of them said a word. The air in the room felt cold. Final. I took a deep breath. You have until tomorrow to turn yourselves in. After that, I won't stop Grandpa's lawyers. Mom's tears started again, but I didn't wait to listen. I walked out and closed the door behind me. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. And yet, a part of me hurt, because even after everything, I still wish they'd just said sorry. 2 days passed. No calls, no messages, just silence. Then Grandpa called me early one morning. His voice was calm, but I could hear it, the disappointment beneath it. They're gone, he said. I froze. Gone where? Costa Rica. My lawyers tracked their passports. They left last night. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone, unable to speak. A part of me had hoped they'd change their minds, that guilt would stop them. But they didn't even look back. By noon, the story had reached the local news. Prominent couple under investigation for trust fund embezzlement flees the country. Everywhere I went, I saw their faces on screens. I felt exposed, humiliated. That night, I went through old boxes at my apartment. Photos, letters, birthdays that weren't really birthdays. Every memory felt like a lie. Then, at the bottom of one box, I found an old external hard drive labeled Family Finances 2012. I plugged it into my laptop, expecting nothing. But inside were hundreds of documents, bank statements, wire transfers, offshore account numbers. They had been hiding money overseas for years. My money. I sent everything to Grandpa's lawyer, who called back within hours. Emily, this changes everything, he said. They didn't just spend it. They laundered it. We can freeze the accounts. For the first time, I smiled. Not because of revenge, but because I finally had control again. The next morning, news broke again. International assets frozen in offshore theft case. Their names were everywhere. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A foreign number. I answered, and my mother's shaky voice came through. Emily, please. We have nothing left. They froze everything. You've ruined us. I said nothing, just silence. Please, she whispered. We did it for you. We didn't mean for it to go this far. I closed my eyes, tears burning, but refusing to fall. You did this to yourself, I said quietly, then hung up. The next day, Grandpa invited me over. When I arrived, he was sitting in his study with 2 cups of tea waiting. He smiled faintly. You handled this with more grace than most people twice your age. I sat down. It doesn't feel like grace, Grandpa. It feels empty. He nodded slowly. Justice often does. I looked out the window, the city lights reflecting off the glass. Maybe he was right. Maybe justice isn't supposed to feel good. It's just supposed to be done. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would rebuild everything they took, not for revenge, but to prove that what's truly mine can't be stolen again. 3 weeks later, I was still waking up before dawn, not from nightmares, but from habit. My phone would buzz with updates from the lawyers, journalists, or Grandpa's assistant. Every morning, a new headline, a new piece of fallout. Then one day, Grandpa called and said just 3 words. They resurfaced. Costa Rica. He wanted to handle it legally. I wanted answers. Real ones. So I booked a ticket. The flight felt endless, somewhere over the ocean. I stared out the window and asked myself what I was even chasing. Closure or confrontation? Maybe both. When I landed in San Jose, the air was thick with humidity and guilt. The hotel they'd been traced to wasn't luxurious anymore. Just a fading resort, with peeling paint and tourists too distracted to notice, 2 fugitives hiding among them. I found them sitting on the patio, facing the sea. My mother wore sunglasses even though it was cloudy. My father looked smaller, tired, unshaven, older. When they saw me, Mom froze. "Emily," she whispered. I sat down across from them. "Don't worry. I'm not here to shout. I just need to know why." Dad sighed. "You wouldn't understand. Try me," I said. He looked away, fingers gripping the table. After the market crash, everything we built fell apart. The business, the house. We were drowning. Then your grandfather made that trust fund for you. It was the only thing untouched. We told ourselves we'd borrow it just until we got back on our feet. "Borrow?" I said quietly. "You bought Teslas and a beach house." Mom's voice broke. "We were scared, Emily. You think it's easy living under his shadow?" He always made us feel small, like nothing we did was enough. We thought if we could rebuild, prove ourselves, we'd pay it back before you ever knew. I stared at them. For a second, I almost believed them, until I remembered the plane tickets they'd bought before my birthday dinner. "You were going to disappear," I said. Mom's silence confirmed it. Finally, Dad whispered, "We didn't mean for you to get hurt, but you meant for me to stay poor," I said. No one spoke for a long time. The only sound was the waves hitting the rocks. Then Mom reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside were old letters, all addressed to me, all unopened. "I tried to send these when you were in college," she said. "He stopped them. Your grandfather said you needed to learn independence." I frowned. "You're lying." "Check the postmarks," she said softly. I did. They were real. Dates, stamps, everything. Letters written in her handwriting, never delivered. I stood up, heart pounding. "You're still trying to twist this. Believe what you want," she said. "But remember, power makes people rewrite history, even family." I left before they could say another word. That night, back in my hotel room, I opened one of the letters. It wasn't an apology, just a mother failing to reach her daughter. For the first time, I didn't know who the villain was anymore. I returned home, a week later. The ocean air still clung to my clothes, but the confusion weighed more than the humidity ever could. The letters were real. The emotions inside them were too. But so was the theft. When I landed in San Francisco, Grandpa's car was waiting for me. His assistant, Michael, drove in silence. When we reached his house, Grandpa was already in his study, the same glass walls and city view where this all began. He looked tired, older than I remembered. "You went to see them," he said. I nodded. I needed to hear it, and they said you stopped their letters. "Did you?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked out the window. Finally, he said, "I did." The words hit harder than I expected. "Why?" I asked quietly. He exhaled. "Because I saw what they were becoming. Spoiled, careless, entitled. And you were different. You had hunger, drive. I wanted you to become someone who didn't rely on anyone, not even me." My voice shook. "So you decided to punish them through me." "I decided to prepare you," he said. "And look at you now. Strong, independent, unbreakable." I stared at him. "You call this strength? You let me believe they didn't care. You turned me against them." He finally looked at me then, his eyes full of something like regret. I did what I thought was right, he said. But perhaps I created exactly what I feared. Another heart who knows how to destroy in the name of control. The silence that followed was sharp. For the first time, I saw my grandfather not as a savior, but as the architect of everything that broke us. The trust fund, the manipulation, the pride. It all began with him. I stood up. Bill wanted to test me, Grandpa. Well, here's my answer. I'm done being part of your lessons. He didn't stop me as I walked out. He just whispered, be careful what you rebuild, Emily. Sometimes peace feels like loneliness. That night, I went to my apartment, and sat on the floor. The city outside glowed gold and blue, lights flickering like heartbeat monitors. I took one of my mother's letters out of my bag and read it again. Even if the world turns against us, I hope you remember you came from love. For the first time, I didn't cry. I just breathed. Maybe forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Maybe it just means not letting the pain own you anymore. Weeks passed, the lawsuit ended. My parents stayed in Costa Rica under monitored restitution. Grandpa's health began to fail, and I visited once, just once. We didn't talk about the past. We just sat quietly, watching the fog roll over the city. After he passed, his lawyer called me in. The estate had been divided again. Half went to charity, half to me. No conditions, no lessons, just peace. Now, a year later, I sit on the same balcony I once thought I'd never afford. The bay stretches before me, endless forgiving. People think stories like mine are about revenge or justice, but they're really about reclaiming something simple, your sense of worth. My name is Emily Carter, and this is what I've learned. Blood might build a family, but truth is what keeps it alive. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you trusted most, don't chase revenge. Chase yourself. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't taking back what they stole. It's realizing you never needed it to begin with. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.